At a glamorous charity gala filled with flashing cameras and whispered judgments, Barron Trump heard something he wasn't supposed to. Whispers about his mother, Melania Trump. Cutting, cruel, and said behind her back. But what happened next wasn't a public outburst. It was a quiet, razor-sharp response that stunned the elite into silence. Stay with us, because what Barron did next will change the way you see him forever. The ballroom of the Roseworth Hotel sparkled under 1,000 chandelier lights, casting golden reflections across polished marble floors and walls lined with art worth more than most homes. It was a night for the elite, a charity gala organized under the banner of Hearts for Humanity, where wealth and generosity mingled in a carefully orchestrated dance of appearances. CEOs, fashion icons, celebrities, old money, and new tech money all gathered in one glittering sea of designer gowns and tuxedos. And tonight, among the glitterati, walked Melania Trump. Elegant, poised, and dignified as ever in a deep sapphire blue gown that shimmered with every step. At her side was her son, Barron Trump, now taller than most men in the room, his calm presence standing in contrast to the overstated energy that buzzed around them. Dressed in a tailored black suit with an understated silver pin on his lapel, Barron exuded the quiet confidence of someone who didn't need to speak loudly to be noticed. It had been years since Melania had appeared at an event of this scale. Although she had always preferred a more private life, tonight she had accepted the invitation in support of the gala's mission, raising funds for children in crisis zones. Cameras flashed the moment she stepped into the venue, but it was not just the press that took interest. Whispers followed her like shadows. Old acquaintances, socialites, and influencers turned heads, not always with admiration, but with curiosity, and something colder. In a far corner of the ballroom, where flute glasses clinked and polite laughter floated in the air, a small circle of well-dressed guests had gathered around a marble pedestal of hors d'oeuvres. Among them was Clarissa Monroe, heiress to a luxury cosmetics empire, known less for her philanthropy and more for her sharp tongue. With a smirk curling at the edge of her lips, she tilted her champagne glass toward her friend and muttered, "Look who finally crawled out of hiding. Guess all those years of silence couldn't buy redemption." The others chuckled politely. One man leaned in, whispering something about vanity in velvet. Another added, "She probably came just to make sure people haven't forgotten she still exists." Barron stood not far behind, browsing a silent auction table lined with handwritten bids. He didn't need to hear every word. Tone, body language, and smirking glances were enough. His hand, resting calmly at his side, curled slightly into a fist. Melania, unaware of the snide remarks, greeted a UNICEF ambassador across the room with a warm smile and perfect poise. Barron watched her for a long moment. He knew what she had endured. The headlines. The mocking. The isolation masked in diamonds and private jets. He had seen her strength behind closed doors, when no one was watching, and no camera could capture the quiet courage she carried. The laughter from Clarissa's group rose again. This time louder, less restrained. And that was when Barron turned. He walked toward them, not in anger, not in haste. His pace was deliberate. His gaze steady. And though they didn't realize it yet, everything was about to change. As Barron approached, the group's laughter waned. Clarissa, noticing his arrival, offered a saccharine smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, Barron," she cooed, swirling her champagne, "we were just admiring how stunning your mother looks tonight. She really knows how to make an entrance." The others murmured half-hearted agreements, but their eyes flickered with discomfort, caught in the act, though pretending otherwise. Barron didn't smile. He paused just a few feet away, his hands in his pockets, posture relaxed but unshakable. "I heard what you said," he began calmly, his voice low but clear. "And I'd like to respond, not with insults, but with perspective." Clarissa blinked, clearly not expecting confrontation, at least not this kind. "Darling, it was just conversation," she replied, trying to dismiss it with a wave of her hand. "No need to be so serious." Barron took a measured breath. "You're right. Conversation matters. Especially in rooms like this, rooms filled with people who claim to care about dignity, compassion, and charity." He gestured subtly around them. "We're all here tonight under the banner of helping children. Yet some seem more interested in resurrecting old grudges than building something new." Clarissa's face stiffened. "My mother has been misunderstood, even vilified," Barron continued. "Not for what she's done, but for what people projected onto her. She chose silence, not because she lacked strength, but because sometimes silence is the most powerful shield against noise. The small group fell into uneasy silence. A few looked down at their glasses. Others glanced at Clarissa, now visibly tense. None of you know the nights she spent comforting children in hospitals when no cameras were around. You didn't see the letters she wrote by hand to grieving mothers. Or how she never spoke publicly about the pain the media caused, because she believed that the work should speak louder than the attacks. Barron's tone never rose. There was no anger, only steady conviction. And if presence at this gala is meant to demonstrate compassion, then shouldn't we extend it not just to strangers in faraway places, but also to people standing right next to us? A long pause settled over the group. Clarissa tried to recover. Barron, I didn't mean. I know, he said gently, cutting her off. You didn't think I would hear. But I did. And more importantly, she didn't. Which is good. Because she didn't come here tonight for applause. She came to help. With that, Barron turned away and walked back toward his mother, who was now engaged in conversation with the host of the gala. Her face lit up when she saw him approach. Back at the hors d'oeuvre table, silence reigned. Clarissa, once the center of the room, now felt like a stranger in it. Several guests quietly dispersed, no longer laughing. As Barron reached Melania, he leaned in slightly and whispered something. She smiled, gently, gratefully, and placed a hand on his arm. He didn't need to tell her what happened. She already knew. As the evening carried on, the energy in the ballroom began to shift. Conversations quieted slightly as word of Barron Trump's quiet confrontation made its way across the crowd. Nobody had expected him to speak up, not in a setting like this. But now, even those who had dismissed the Trump name as an echo from a past era were rethinking their assumptions. Within minutes, the dynamic around Melania changed. Where there had once been side eyes and forced smiles, there were now nods of respect and softened expressions. People who had once avoided her now approached with kind words and genuine curiosity about the causes she supported. Melania, ever composed, received them with grace. But it was clear to those who looked closely. Her posture was a little more upright, her gaze a little brighter. She wasn't just enduring the night. Now she was owning it. Barron remained by her side. Not as a shadow, but as a calm, steady presence. More than a sun, almost like a quiet shield. Toward the end of the evening, the host of the gala, a prominent philanthropist named Evelyn Graves, took the stage to thank the attendees. She wore an elegant black dress and held a small envelope in her hand. I'd like to recognize someone tonight, she said, her voice echoing across the room. Someone whose words reminded us that dignity, charity, and courage don't always come with fanfare. Sometimes they come quietly and powerfully. There was a beat of silence, and then she continued. Barron Trump, would you please join me on stage? The crowd turned in unison. Melania glanced at her son, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. Barron hesitated for just a moment, then gave a small nod and walked steadily toward the stage. He didn't look nervous, just focused. When he arrived, Evelyn handed him the envelope. This is a note of appreciation from our organization, she said, but more importantly, a reminder that sometimes the most impactful words are the ones that speak not just to the room, but to the soul. Barron gave a brief nod and stepped to the microphone, not to give a speech, but just a sentence. Sometimes standing up for someone you love, he said, is the best way to show what charity really means. And then he stepped down. The applause that followed wasn't explosive. It was deeper, a standing ovation that began quietly and grew with each second. Not for drama, not for status, but for authenticity. That moment, simple, quiet, and sincere, was more powerful than any prepared keynote. As the gala drew to a close, guests approached Melania and Barron not with curiosity, but with respect. Some even apologized for things unsaid but understood. The air had shifted. In the car ride home, Melania looked out the window for a long time before finally turning to her son. I didn't know you'd heard them, she said quietly. I did, Barron replied. And I didn't have to? She asked. He smiled softly. No, Mom. You've done enough. It was my turn. That night, no headlines shouted the moment. No viral clip trended overnight. But those who were there, who saw the quiet fire in Barron's eyes and the calm strength in his voice, would remember it. Because sometimes, dignity whispers louder than any scream.